Bodie Wells there in the Brady Bunch right below me. I guess I'm Alice. I don't know which one's below Alice and Brady Bunch. I'm dating myself there. But we're reacting live to the college football playoff rankings. And as Bodie's informed me, live might be in a little bit because we're still waiting for a basketball game to end over there, Bodes.
Yeah, sometimes over the years, Tito, when I used to do when I would run the board for the Ohio State men's basketball games, some of the most fun times was listening to Paul and Ron call the game before the Ohio State game at either a Big Ten tournament or NCAA tournament appearance, because the previous game would go on so long. At some point, you run out of network pregame coverage of stuff to talk about, so you just start calling the game ahead of you. I'm not going to embarrass myself and try to be the play-by-play commentator for the Southern Cal Seton Hall game, but we have not hit the under 12-minute timeout yet in this game in Maui. I'm not really sure if ESPN. I see in the right-hand corner of my television screen, it says next, the college football playoff top 25. It says it's also available on the ESPN app. I don't know what next means. Next is in after this game. Next is in, we'll get to it at 7:05. Right. But I guess TBD on that.
I think the biggest thing I need to ask you, Bodie, have you done one of these before?
I have not. Nope.
Can we cuss?
You know, that's a good question. I don't have a dump button in front of me, so
yeah, no one's told me.
If you do, nobody's dumping it. I can promise you that much.
That's fine. I usually count on you for that kind of knowledge. We're joined by a couple of guys here tonight that also are going to react to the rankings whenever we see them. One of them will bring in Austin Ward. Austin Ward, he is one half of the Austin and Burn podcast. So we'll get him in here. There's Austin Ward. Austin, how are you, my friend? Long time no see.
It's great to see you both. It started the day with you guys at 6 a.m. on Morning Juice, and now wrapping it up with college football playoff rankings at some point. In between, though, I did pop into the Woody Hayes Athletic Center where Ryan Day had his press conference, which was as bumpy and energetic and Schlegs-like as I've ever heard him. So,
really?
Yeah, I mean, we heard a curse word. Now, not real one. Well, one that we could say on the air normally. We're going to stay away from all of that stuff. No, but I've never heard him say this particular word, and it's not a bad word. Jen's over here telling us to keep it clean on the stream, so I'm going to. But he, talked about nitrous tanks and emotions and energy and how fun it is to kick butts, and a different word for that on Saturday. So I thought he was as confident and composed and in control as I've ever seen Ryan Day on the Tuesday of the game. Now, what does that guarantee for Saturday? Absolutely nothing. But we've spent a lot of time in the past breaking down the way he's coached in the game on Saturdays. And I think a lot of that tightness has been visible in him by Tuesday of that game week. So that was not the way he acted today. So I think that's significant because probably shortly we're going to see Ohio State at number 1 in these latest rankings, but we all know that they have to beat Michigan to stay there.
Jen saying to keep it clean. That's Rich. Love you, Jen. Glad you're here participating with us. Let's bring on Ryan Baker now as well. Ryan Baker, who's with Benjamin and Friends, a producer for them, and basically hosts every single show at some point in time or another. You're not in the studio, it looks like, Baker, which means you have a rare night off to where you can talk to us instead while still working and not getting paid more.
Night off? What are we doing right now then?
That's what I'm saying. It's not really night off. This is about as night offish as it gets for you, I think.
Yeah, this is beautiful. I'm watching Buckeye hoops. They're beating Mount St. Mary's and waiting for these playoff rankings to come out.
Yeah, I like Ohio State in this game by at least 26.5, I think, is what I'm hoping for in this one. They've got a 16-point lead in that one. That's over on the fan right now. And I don't know if I should take offense to this, Baker, but this will probably be the least suspenseful reveal we've had so far. And that's the night they put me on.
Yeah, I think that's that's best. I mean, I know these YouTube things are not controlled. There's really no script to follow. As F-Bomb Jen has said, just stay away from the F-bombs. Everything else, we are okay. But yeah, this is going to be pretty quiet tonight. I think the biggest question we might see tonight is how much they value that win Oregon had last week over USC. And if they maybe hop Oregon over, say, like a Ole Miss who didn't play last week.
Yeah, and I also wonder, and I don't know, I've heard other people talk about this too. We haven't really talked about it on our show much, but if Lane Kiffin does leave, and they somehow lose to Mississippi State, and which won't happen. If they did, though, and then, he left, would they penalize them the way that Florida State got penalized when their quarterback went down? Was it Jordan Travis from that when he had his injury that took him out for the playoffs, and they didn't put an undefeated Florida State team in the 14 playoff?
Well, I think they would if they lose to Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl. I think they absolutely would penalize them. And I think Lane is supposed to say the day after, he's supposed to make his decision the day after the Egg Bowl. I think it'll be interesting if they beat Mississippi State and then he says, hey, I'm out of here. Will they penalize them?
Bodie, you're fighting Irish. I know you're, and I mentioned today on the show that I talked to my obnoxious Notre Dame cousin Rob, and
there's no such thing as obnoxious Notre Dame fans.
I apologize. My apologies on that one. That's the equivalent of cursing to Bodie. I'll probably get dinged for that one. I can't wait for
Bodie. Have you not met other Notre Dame fans?
You guys, there's definitely not one on this call right now. I can promise you.
I didn't say you.
I didn't say either. I just said obnoxious. Yeah.
That young woman who told me to sit down at that Texas A&M game, Tito. She was
the 7-year-old woman who you threatened to take her cane and break it over her back. That's the one. Yes. Bodie, Notre Dame, though, I guess you, like my cousin, you are also an Ohio State fan this weekend, big time, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, because I got to be honest with you. I think Michigan getting in, even if they won this weekend, and I know that's a heck of a trump card, a win over number 1 Ohio State. But if you look at the rest of the resume, it just doesn't stack up amongst the 10-2 teams. But I would expect them to get in if they were to win this weekend in Ann Arbor. So, yeah, I think not only are Notre Dame fans big Buckeye fans this weekend, as I kind of look across, I would say Oklahoma probably still is in that category. I would say Alabama's in that category. And then you could probably throw BYU, Utah, and even Miami. I think those three teams probably still need to take care of some of their own business and probably still need some more help to get in there. But, yeah, once you get past about the top 7 teams, there's a lot of teams there that need the Buckeyes to win this weekend. And not only Ohio State, but, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Alabama projecting ahead here. I believe Texas Tech plays WVU this weekend. Yeah, so they're on the road. They're big favorites there. So if they take care of business, they should be fine. But some of those teams also need Texas Tech to win the Big 12 championship next weekend and need the Big 12 to be a one-bid league.
Austin, there's been a lot of talk from Miami Hurricanes fans about hoping that the head-to-head win over Notre Dame really counts as something. The committee hasn't really made it count that much yet. I think Miami's probably a playoff caliber team. They might not get in the loss. We all know it's not only who you lose to, but it's when you lose also. And I wonder how much the committee is going to talk about that, the head-to-head, if Notre Dame gets in ahead of Miami, and how that's going to be received and how they're going to try to explain that away.
Yeah, well, I think they've already planted the seeds for explaining that, which is that as they go through it and they take their pods of 3 teams or 4 teams, it's always a moving target when they have these conversations. But the teams that they want to compare in a similar bucket right now, as the committee, which has also been a revolving door in terms of leadership, which is its own subplot to this 2025 season. They've said, well, Notre Dame they view as unequivocally better right now than Miami, which again, they did play. The games should count for something. I know Bodie can cover his ears if he wants, but they have their explanation to this point has been that the way that Notre Dame has played since those first 2 games and since the first meeting with Miami, they are on the upward trajectory. They are dominating opponents. They have strength of game control, all those other fun stuff that they try to use to explain their decisions, which at the end of the day is just going to come down to vibes, I think, in that room. Because if you get into the actual criteria that should be taking into account head-to-head, that would certainly favor Miami over Notre Dame. But they are viewing Notre Dame as in a separate bucket from the Hurricanes at this point, and I don't really disagree with that. Miami had opportunities in the ACC to handle its own business. It's a bad league, it's a bad schedule, and the losses that Miami suffered are black eyes on their resume. They deserve to be on the outside, in my opinion, right now. And if they had not turned the ball over a billion times against Louisville, we wouldn't be having this conversation at all, because Miami would undoubtedly and unequivocally be ahead of Notre Dame in these rankings. So, I don't have any issue with it, but I know that there's going to be a lot of bickering and arguing about it. And I understand the case on both sides. Notre Dame is a different team now than they were at the end of August and the first week of September. And Miami is a much worse version than what we saw in the first half of the year.
I think so too, and I'm with you on that, Austin. I don't have a problem saying. I feel very confident saying, like, if Notre Dame and Miami played on a neutral field, Notre Dame would be favored. I don't know, 3 or 4 points, something like. They would be favored nonetheless. Yes, it's a nice win for Miami, but the losses are worse than that win they had, and so. And they also are hurt by the fact they play in a very weak ACC, when you've got Florida State and Clemson who are non-existent, and you've got some other fraudulent teams who are in contention for that. I mean, Miami's the best team in the ACC, in my opinion, but, they're the poster child for, you've got to take care of your games in season. Even if you have a great win to start the season, you can't afford to let up. And Baker, I wonder, as you're looking at who the potential, probably the 12 teams are going to be, the top 12 we're going to see, top 11 plus, the group of 5 or whatever. But do you, I feel like we're not going to have the 12 best teams in this field when it's all said and done, because of the group of 5 thing, and because of a couple things that may, with the conference champion getting in, that might be as good as somebody else that didn't get in. Do you think that we'll have 11 of the 12 best teams in the country when it's all said and done?
No, I don't believe so, because I don't believe that the group of 5 champion is going to be one of the top 11 teams in the country. And I don't think the ACC, I don't think anybody in the ACC is in a top 11 team either. I understand Miami's argument that they beat Notre Dame earlier in the year, and that probably should have some weight. But I believe if Miami and Notre Dame played right now, and I'm not just saying this because Bodie Wells is here, I believe Notre Dame would beat them, and I believe they'd beat them pretty easily, 10 point, 14 point, something like that. So I don't think so. And this is one of the reasons I've always said I don't want automatic qualifiers in this. If we're going to expand playoffs, I just want the teams that are the best. I don't want this, well, you've got to get in and this person has to be in. If they're the best, like if your conference is good, your champion should be one of the 12 best. So you shouldn't have to say, well, our conference gets in.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. The automatic bid thing, and I know that Tony Petit is fighting for getting more automatic bids and expanding the playoff and doing that. I'm not a big fan of that, though. And we've had discussions about that where it's just like, get the best teams in there. And I'm beyond the group of 5 thing. Like, I think it's cute, but I don't need a group of 5 team is not going to win, is not a contender for the national championship. They might win 1. They're not going to reel off 3 in a row to win the national championship. I don't believe. I mean, even going back to the Boise State teams, I don't think they would have won a title in this kind of a playoff format. They had their great win over Oklahoma, where they did the Statue of Liberty thing. That was all fun and everything. But Cincinnati made the playoff as a group of 5 team when they did it under Fick there. But I think it's unrealistic to think a Power 5 team could win the national championship. Now, it's different in March Madness because you can win a couple of games. Hell, we've seen teams win 4 games that are like the lower level schools that get lucky, get on a hot run and do it. But in a football situation, I don't know, Bodie, how you feel about it, but I don't think a group of 5 team can realistically win a national championship.
Oh, definitely not realistically. I don't think win the national championship. I'm fine with them getting in, though, because to me, it kind of gets back, in my opinion, to the point of once you get to about 12, 13, 14, I don't really feel sorry for you if you get left out. If you're a Power 4 school, you had everything right in front of you to get in. And if you're – get my rankings pulled back up here real quick. But, yeah, some of those teams right there in that Miami, Vanderbilt, BYU, Utah range, like you kind of had everything in front of you to get in. And if you didn't get in – it's kind of your fault. I know that Who I honestly don't even. What are we looking at? North Texas, Tulane, or is that kind of what we're thinking is one of the 2 Group of 5 schools? I feel like last year was such a runaway favorite that Boise State was going to get that slot. I couldn't even really. I have not been. I guess JMU is James Madison. They're in there as well. I haven't been locked into the Group of 5.
Hard to believe
scores. If I'm being honest with you guys,
Boise State got grandfathered in. They could have been 5 and 7 last year. They would put them in just because of all the times they didn't. They got disrespected.
Just put them in again. Why not?
Yeah, why not just put them in there as a forever team in there. I think right now the Tulane is probably the one who's looking like the most likely to get in. But yeah, it could be North Texas, it could be East Carolina. I think Navy still has a shot, although it's probably a long shot. I would love to see Navy in there, but they won't get it.
No, probably not. I think too, a lot of this. Getting back to kind of what Bake was talking about a second ago with some of the conference stuff and whatnot, I think this also just shows how much we, air quotes we, because the 4 of us and most of the college football fans out there had nothing to do with this, but the geniuses, I say sarcastically, running this sport completely botched everything with conference alignment because so many teams, I was just looking at it here a second ago. So Texas A&M, and I think Texas A&M is a good football team this year. Sure. And they obviously have that feather in their cap there when they beat the Fighting Irish in South Bend back in week 3. But as you look at it right now, they're first in the SEC. They're undefeated at 7-0. They will play Texas this weekend, of course. I think that game might even be on Friday, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it's a Black Friday game, yeah.
Okay, but nevertheless, so that's one. But teams about 2 through 8 here in the SEC behind A&M is Georgia, Ole Miss, Bama, Texas, Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, and Tennessee. Texas A&M is going to go through a full SEC conference slate, having played one team that's 2 through 8 behind them in the standings. Now, obviously, they can't play themselves, and you can't take anything away from them.
Ohio State plays themselves every week, Bodie.
Exactly. It's not a bye week; it's an improvement week every week for Buckeyes. But that's the thing is do I think Texas A&M is one of, if not the best team in the SEC? Yeah, I think that's pretty plausible. But they also, no doubt, benefited from the fact that they got to play, and it's not their fault. It's the way the schedule aligned this year, but they got to mostly play the bottom half of the conference, and we're just consistently not getting these teams from these conferences because they're so damn big. Sorry, Jen, so darn big. That they're not.
He said damn D-A-M. He didn't say D-A-M-M, yeah, Jen. Don't say
gosh
anything.
Darn big. But it's like even Miami. And granted, Miami lost 2 ACC games that maybe they shouldn't have or whatever. But if chalk holds, it's going to be Virginia and SMU in the Atlantic Coast Conference Championship, which is pretty priceless. SMU, 2 years in the ACC, 2 years heading to the title game, maybe. How about that? But Miami didn't even play Virginia or Georgia Tech, 2 teams who are right ahead of them in the standings. And it's just these conferences got way too big to where we're not really getting – we're probably getting 2 of the best teams, but I don't know if we're getting the 2 best teams each year from each conference.
I feel like I'm doing Meet the Press or Sports Reporters. I'm just going one at a time and firing questions at you guys. I'm like Dick Shapp.
Well, I think – go ahead. Here, I'll save you a question, Tito. I think one thing that Bodie is talking about, which has been a pet peeve of mine, is when Tony Petitti specifically is talking about automatic qualifying bids, and this can apply to Big Ten schedules just as easily as what Bodie did to Texas A&M's SEC schedule. The problem to me is that the expansion got out of control. The schedules are imbalanced, and SEC teams need to be playing SEC teams to streamline their conference and give you the best idea of who the top 4 teams in that league are. I firmly believe the same thing about the Big Ten. I don't think non-conference scheduling needs to exist anymore, personally. And I know that a lot of people find no, I understand that that's going to be a very difficult conversation for Bodie to wrap his mind around
every week.
But I'm having a harder time now having this conversation because of Bodie's anger at me because of his own allegiance. But when you look at the Big Ten and Tony Petitti talking about, having automatic qualifiers and determining conference champions and having this championship weekend that is essentially to play into the playoff, you're having all of these convoluted tiebreakers, which we're also having still this week because there are not enough conference games. So Texas A&M, if they had just one more SEC game, probably wouldn't have dodged the rest of the top half of the league. If they had 2, then the odds of that go down dramatically. Same thing applies with the Big Ten going from 9 to 10. My crazy idea is that in an 18-team league where you still would not be able to play everyone because college football is not going to go to a 17-week regular season. I'm not going to advocate for that. I don't believe that they should. Health, safety, all the other things. Plus, the schedule is already long enough and out of whack as it is. I think the Big Ten should be playing 12 conference games. I think the SEC should be playing 12 conference games. And if they're going to barrel through another round of expansion to the college football playoff, which is we're way off track for just how this applies to 2025 in the rankings released tonight. But you have to be able to more accurately determine the pecking order of your own conferences before you can even worry about the selection committee. And they have a major glaring problem with that, which, as Bodie rightly pointed out, the conferences created themselves.
This goes to something that I've talked about for a long time. The college football playoff system, college football itself, needs to break off from the conferences. And they need to set up, I don't know how you're going to do it. If you want to go the 64 biggest teams, the 80 biggest teams, and then you need to geographically locate these teams again so they're not traveling all over the country all the time. Try to break it up as equal as you can, and football needs to be its own thing, especially for the college football playoff and the national championship. I know they're not going to do this, but they need to break away, keep the conferences, go back to the old conferences for all the other sports, for basketball, for baseball, for softball, for hockey, for all of that stuff. But we need to we're treating football like something else that it is. We're treating it like the NFL anyway. So we need to just break it off and break it up as much as we can and as evenly as we can so we can get the best judge of these teams.
Yeah, Bakes, I'm done with the whole. I'm tired of people trying to love college football, but it's different. It's a different beast. I don't want to hear about academics, and I don't want to hear about tradition. Okay, just give me better college football teams, all bunched up together, and whatever. In the way you're going to do it, the best 64, like you maybe mentioned, or the best 40, or however you want to do it. I don't care. But I want to see that also. But Austin, maybe you can speak to the business side of this, and if you can't, I apologize for not prepping you. How realistic is something like that to happen? Where
not realistic.
It's not like not anytime soon.
Yeah, no, I think that. Yeah, as you said, it is a business conversation, and there are certainly, Bodie talked about Gordon Gee this morning on Morning Juice about his thoughts about pooling together everyone's broadcast deals, which would, streamline what Bake is talking about as well. You put these two ideas together, that would be how you get to a quote unquote college football super league. And there are a lot of these proposals that are out there, but the issues that they run into are a bunch of contractual agreements that are already in place. And there's one thing that you mentioned in there, Tito, that is like, you don't want to hear about the traditions. If we don't have the traditions, then all we're making is a knockoff version of the NFL. The NFL already exists. I don't think that college football can try and compete on a level footing with the NFL product. And it doesn't make sense for them to do so. So the traditions are important. The rivalries are important. The geography should have been more important than it has been. But the simplest part of this conversation financially is grant of rights deals and SEC and ESPN at its most basic, and the Big Ten and Fox going head to head. I don't see any way forward. The Big Ten's deal goes through 2036, right? And there's a renegotiation window that they have that's still not for 5 more years, but there's not going to be any change to that. And the single biggest hurdle out of all of this is that the Big Ten's specific partnership gives the Fox control over the inventory and Big Ten network. So are they going to willingly give up their hundreds of millions and billions of dollars in broadcast revenue and inventory to partner with the SEC and ESPN for the good of college football as a whole? Unfortunately, they are not. So we can all come up with ideas that we like. They would probably make a lot more sense than the way college football is organized currently, but it's not going to be practically not going to be practical. It's not going to be a reality, and contractually, it's impossible.
Okay, but looking at traditions, though, the Big Ten has already said to hell with traditions. A lot of the time, there's not many traditions that are left. Like at Ohio State, when it comes to college football, and you can tell me if I'm wrong on this, I think the only two things that are really left untouched are dotting the I and the Michigan game end of the season, because it's no longer the Rose Bowl. It's no longer playing every team in the Big Ten, and so it's because of the way that they've morphed into this. Go ahead.
Don't get me started on the fact that the Big Ten champion still has to go to the Rose Bowl. Like, if Ohio State, like, that part is ridiculous. Or that the Rose Bowl refuses to move off of January 1. They are unfortunately still tied to that part of the tradition, which that's one that I would be happy for them to let go. Sorry to interrupt you.
Or that they have conference championship games, period.
That's my next question then. Is it because it makes sense if you're going to do the season like for a team to play in the conference championship game, it might hurt them. Like if they, for instance, let's say Michigan does beat Ohio State and then gets their drawers blown off in the Big Ten championship game, all of a sudden Michigan becomes more questionable as far as being in the CFP, right? A 3-loss Michigan team?
The way that they tried to work around that last year, which I think was fortunate for the College Football Playoff Selection Committee, was saying before championship weekend, if you're not playing, you're not moving. This is where we think you are. Because I think there was a realistic case to be made that Ohio State should have been above Penn State based on other protocol, other metrics, and head-to-head comparison last year. But they didn't do that. They said, if you're playing in a conference championship, we're not going to penalize you. We saw that with SMU and losing to Clemson in the same situation. So now that was a more clear-cut, clean-cut weekend in conference championship weekend a year ago that prevented them from having to make a truly controversial decision outside of including SMU. But to your point, Tito, would that be the same if it was a third loss for Michigan? Let's hope we don't have to find out, but it would be a lot more difficult, and the precedent that they set a year ago might immediately be thrown out in year 2.
Yeah, it could be. And that's why I wonder, like, if you like when they expand this, and we all know they're going to expand it, and the money's going to be exponentially more. But
thank God.
Yeah, but does it make sense though to then, like, I don't know how you can financially do that, even say no more conference championship games, because it means so much. There's so much money being made on the rights to those games in the cities that host them. And so, like, I don't know. Bodie, do you think they could get rid of conference championship games ever?
Ever's a long time, Tito. That's
what I'm here to tell you. Yeah.
But how about maybe in our lifetime? I don't think so, because I think you hit the nail on the head. They make so much money off of them. I don't know if there's a way that, and I know we kind of just got away from this from last year to this year, and people were happy about that. And I don't think people are wrong to be happy about it. But do you expand to 16? Do you make the top 4? Do you go back to where the Power 4 conferences, the champions all get a bye guaranteed? That's how it was last year. I don't know if people love that. I think people seem to like the straight seeding more, which I'm kind of on board with, because I think we saw last year. They're allowed to go win the game. I'm a big proponent of always saying that, especially with a lot of things in college football. I can't stand how often sometimes administrators will be like, well, if we're not going to be rewarded for playing tough non-conference games, and it's like, well, you're allowed to win those games too, and you can get rewarded if you win them. But with that being said, I know that last year you had a team like Oregon. Should they have been playing Ohio State in the second round of the playoffs? Probably not. Like, that was I know life's unfair, but that was pretty unfair, man. You go 13-0 and win your conference, and here's your reward. You got to play a team that was clearly better than, what were the Buckeyes last year? The 8 seed.
They were a 6 seed, but they got pushed down to 8 because of the conference champion rules.
Yeah. So, like, that was like a pretty tough break there. You had Georgia with a similar situation, having to play Notre Dame in the second round. And then you had a team like Penn State, who I think was lower in the final rankings than either one of those two teams, right? If memory serves correct, in both Oregon and Georgia. But they got to play Boise State. And and granted, Penn State played a first round home game against SMU or whatever, but like, I do think the straight seeding is better. I don't really know. I think if you're going to keep the conference championship games, which I definitely think they are, I think you have to find some sort of balance that winning it is rewarding. I just don't really know what that balance is, because I don't necessarily think many people want to go back to that qualifying, like that being the only qualifier for the buys.
So
if Ohio State, sorry, I'll just say like real quick, but Ohio State and Indiana both win this weekend, and then Ohio State beats Indiana 27-24 next weekend in Indy. Should Indiana not be a top 4 seed all of a sudden? Or at least maybe they shouldn't be, but should they not be able to be? If they get killed and they fall to 5th, maybe they deserve to. But if they lose a 3-point game, last second field goal to Jaden Fielding, does that mean they just flat out should not be able to qualify for a top 4 seed? Like, that seems pretty tough. We play 13 games. If they would have been just 12-0, should they have just forfeit? Just sat out? Like, we're not going to the Big Ten championship game.
That's what I'm saying. Just say we've got COVID. We've got COVID. Yes, we can't play.
We'll just sit on 12-0. Like, that's probably I don't know what that balance is, but they probably have to try to find some sort of balance between keeping the conference championship games, because we all know they want to because the money, but then also making it rewarding for the winners, but also not damaging for the losers.
And we know they're not getting rid of the conference championship games because of the money. Heck, Tony Petitti wants the 3 and the 6 and the 4 and the 5 playing, and he wants his 8 and 4 Big Ten team in there. It's funny, Austin, that you talked about, well, we're just going to be a watered down version of the NFL. Well, it already is. And that's what Tony Petitti's trying to make it even more and more in these conference championship games. I look at Georgia right now. And if Georgia, Alabama, and Texas A&M all handle their business, like Georgia's the biggest Alabama and Texas A&M fan this weekend, because they want both of those teams to win. Then both of those teams go to the SEC championship. Georgia can sit back with their heels up and watch that game and probably just sit their way into a top 4 seed in a bye.
So realistically, and I say this, and I know saying it, I'm a scarred Buckeye fan who lived through the Cooper years, and I love John Cooper. I feel like every time I say something about John Cooper with Michigan, I think I always have to say a disclaimer. Like, I want everyone to know this. I love John Cooper. He's a great man. I'm glad he stayed in Columbus.
With all due respect.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bodie. With all due respect. And by the way, he could also still kick my ass. Sorry, Jen. But I love John Cooper.
Oh, no.
Yes, I know. I just ruined it for us. I love John Cooper. But as someone who lived through those years and has lived through the recent years now, these last few years of this, do you think Michigan has a better chance of causing chaos with a win, or Texas has a better chance of causing chaos with a win over A&M? Which team's got a better chance to win this weekend?
I don't know who has the better chance to win, but a Texas win would cause more chaos, because if Michigan wins this weekend, they're in. The Big Ten's getting 4. That's just the way it is if that happens. But Texas, a 3-loss SEC team, that just changes everything.
It might be 5 for the Big. Yeah, sorry. It might be 5 for the Big Ten, right? Ohio State, Indiana, Oregon, and or no, I'm sorry, I can't do math.
Michigan, yeah.
Continue.
You miscounted on that one, Bodie. You counted Ohio State twice. It's not Ohio State. Ohio State's one team. Austin, which one's more likely to happen? Ohio State losing to Michigan or A&M falling to Texas?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Texas is more likely to beat Texas A&M and kick the SEC propaganda machine into overdrive, advocating for them. And I'm not sure that it would be wrong to do so. They did schedule aggressively. Bodie made the point that they are allowed to win those non-conference games, those marquee showdowns that you put on the schedule that everyone wants to watch and wants to maintain for college football, except for me, I guess, because I want all Big Ten games being played all the time. But I think that Texas is still a very good team, a very talented defense. Arch Manning seems to be a different, improved version than what we saw in the Horseshoe now, almost 3 months ago. And when you look at Texas A&M, I mean, I cannot for the life of me stop thinking about the first half against a 3-win South Carolina team where they're down by 27. So I know that it's distinctly possible for some of the worst teams in that conference to go in there and challenge Texas A&M, because that's that's happened. And I think that Texas A&M is good. I am not trying to diminish their accomplishments. They've played the teams that are in front of them. They've beat every single one of them. But, if you're asking me what upset is more likely, it's definitely Texas. And I think that's, I'd have a hard time changing my mind on that. I'm going to be really surprised if Ohio State does not win on Saturday for a lot of reasons. And I think that even if you're going transitive property, Texas beating Oklahoma, which Oklahoma beat Michigan, I know that that's not an easy way to solve anything, but it's another factor here.
The biggest reason Ohio State will win Saturday is because God loves Ohio State more than he loves Michigan. But so when you look at that, you mentioned the A&M game against South Carolina. A&M falls behind big in the first half, has to rally for some furious comeback. By the way, Bodie, is this team going to overtime?
That's a good question, Tito. We are, of course,
tied.
The beautiful sport of college basketball is a tight game in the last minute means we're going to take. I kid you not.
They've been in an official review for about 75 minutes. So
I know. I looked at the clock and it was 7:22 when there was, I believe, less than a minute left. It's now 7:34 and we're down to 29 seconds. Austin, you are not wrong, man. I don't even know what they're reviewing. I haven't really been paying enough attention to do that. All I know is every time I keep looking over at my TV screen, it's still under official review. And we got Seton Hall and Southern Cal knotted up 78 all with 29.4 seconds left. So will we get the rankings tonight? Tomorrow morning? Hard to tell, but yeah.
The last 4 minutes of this game will be the highest rated college basketball game Seton Hall's played in all year long, by far. Because everyone's tuning in to look at the rankings, and they're watching this damn Seton Hall USC game. Tradition unlike any other. Okay, so I started to talk about the South Carolina A&M game. South Carolina goes up big. A&M's getting their butts handed to them at the half. They come back and win. Do you ding A&M for that, or do you praise A&M for that?
I mean, they won the game, and I've had it drilled into me every single week from Ryan Day, the team that I cover. All you have to do is win the game. That is the way that college football works now. Style points are supposed to be removed. For me as a human being, I ding Texas A&M for that performance because it didn't look indicative of one of the clear-cut top 3 or 4 teams in the country to be trailing by that many points at home to a team that has struggled to the extent that South Carolina has. So, I know that the College Football Playoff Selection Committee is supposed to disregard those things and focus more on results. And then if they have to, they can go deeper into the metrics from there. I understand that college football games are hard to win against anybody. Ohio State has made it look very simple on a week in, week out basis. It's not that easy. So I do give them credit. And I'm not trying to play both sides of it, Tito, but it's impossible not to think about what that half meant in relation to now you have to play a full game against a much more talented Texas opponent. And you've already shown that there are some deficiencies that maybe had been covered up by some of these performances against a softer schedule than anybody else in the SEC.
Okay, to send that out, Baker, that game and also Indiana barely surviving Penn State. Do you ding Indiana for that? Give me your A&M South Carolina answer, but also I want to hear your Indiana Penn State analysis on that, on if you ding the Hoosiers for that.
So I think this is so hard, and I think it's so hard for 2 reasons. Well, I mean, Herm Edwards once said we play to win the game, right? Yeah, we don't play to win the game by 40. We play to win the game. So who has the most points when the clock hits 0? And one of my least favorite things about this expanded college football playoff is that we're arguing who has better losses.
Sure.
Just win the damn game. Like, it's so frustrating that we're like, well, this team has a better loss here and this team has a better loss there. I hate that we delineate between who has a better loss. I also remember an 0-2 team from Ohio State that won a national championship and went undefeated, and they didn't look like world beaters every week. They had a lot of games that were nail biters. They had Holy Buckeye. They had Illinois. They had Northwestern. They had a lot of games that were very close, and they ended up winning the national championship and beating a team that everybody thought was unbeatable in Miami. So it's hard to not look at A&M's performance against South Carolina in that first half and be like, oh my gosh, what is this? They're not very good. Let's also not forget that South Carolina was ranked 11th in the country to start the season. Whether that was justified or not, they were. They had a really good year last year. They've got two really good players in Lenora Sellers and Dylan Stewart, who just wrecks games from the defensive end edge there, a guy that Ohio State was heavily involved in recruiting. To get down that big is one thing, but then they were able to come back. I think Texas A&M in your scenario gets dinged in my mind a little more than Indiana winning Penn State, because I think there's a lot of factors in that game. One, Indiana had never won there before. Two, that Penn State team, it hasn't worked on the field for them, but there's no doubt there's talent there, and there's especially talent in the trenches, which is, I think, the one place that Indiana might be deficient, the one place where if Ohio State played Indiana, Ohio State would probably have the biggest edge, is on the lines of scrimmage, I would think. So I think Indiana being able to win on the road in that environment, first time ever, a lot of people didn't think they would. I didn't really ding Indiana too much for that, and I also didn't ding Texas A&M too much, but I do think their win over South Carolina was more concerning than Indiana's over Penn State.
Bodie, you're going to tell us when the rankings start popping up there, because I've got to focus on this. Not going to have to, I'm saying, but I don't know how close we are.
You got about 30 minutes.
USC has taken a 3-point lead, Tito. I know you're hanging on the edge of your seat. After all of the official review that Bodie and I were watching, they didn't review a call that they just absolutely blew.
I know. But I was fully expecting the review. That's why I was kind of laughing, if anybody noticed that. And they blatantly blew a call that they just didn't. Like, college basketball is just hilarious, man. It's so dumb. But, looks like USC might be – that was just a trip. But they're up 3 with about 10 seconds left, give or take. So hopefully they can just start playing the foul game and don't let Seton Hall tie the game with a 3-pointer here.
I'd say just keep fouling and extend this game as long as possible, because Tito's doing such a great job running this show. I'd love to see if he's got 3 hours of content in him tonight.
I'll be honest, when Tyler asked me this morning if I was good to do this, I was like, yeah, sure, man. He's like, we'll probably be done 7:30, 7:45. The rankings will come out. We'll chat about it. I didn't think we'd get into the Texas A&M South Carolina game, but I love it.
Hey, I've got a long list of notes. I knew something like this could happen, so that's why I did this. As you're looking then at by the way, Ohio State men are up now 68-31 on Mount St. Mary's. I didn't think I'd be giving updates on that game, but it's a 37-point lead right now for them. 4 Buckeyes already in double figures with just took the under 16 timeout for that one. But you mentioned earlier about Baker, about if you could realign these things and have the geographical stuff. That always cracks me up, because if we had the old Big Ten and the old Pac-10 and the old Southwest Conference and the old SEC and the old ACC, it'd be perfect for what you're talking about.
The Big East.
The Big East. You're right. That's the other one too. And I would love it. We talked about this earlier in our show, but it seems like, or maybe it was yesterday, but there's so many easy fixes that can be made with the college football format. And it seems like, I said to Dave Baker, I know you're probably listening to the show, so you've already heard it once when I was talking, but I feel like college football is like the freeways in Columbus, where there's always going to be construction barrels out somewhere.
Well, that's because we never plan for 15 years down the road. We always plan for 5 years ago. Right. And that seems to be like what kind of college football has happened here with all of this. Tito, you're right. It would be awesome if we could reverse engineer this thing and kind of go back the way we did. It's like everybody cut the cord, right, and got rid of cable. And now almost everybody wants is cable, where they can get all of their shows in one spot. I don't know. The grass isn't always greener, and sometimes we, in our stupidity, prove it a lot.
I'm doing this show right now from a rotary phone in my house. So that's you're right. Everyone wants to go back to the old stuff.
Sometimes it's better.
We got a final yet here, Bodie.
3.4 seconds to go, Tito. USC struggling to inbound the ball, and they're going to go to the line.
A 5-second violation, up 1
absolutely
with 3 seconds left.
Absurd.
Now they're the Trojans are still up 1. They finally got the ball inbound. 1.8 seconds left. So I would say, and Seton Hall has no timeout. So if this kid, we either need him to, I'm trying to think. Ideally, he just misses both. And that way, either they're going to win by 1 or Seton Hall hits a full court shot and wins by 2.
I love how Tyler's in the chat laughing at us, by the way. He scheduled this thing probably knowing this was going to happen. And he's just having the time of his life laughing at us ramble about Seton Hall USC.
If you think this was just Tyler's doing, let me introduce you to Common Man and Tim Hall. They're the ones who said, this is what's going to happen. Let's rope Tito into this. And then that'll be the worst time to do it. We'll tell him 30 minutes to an hour. It'll be a 3-hour show before Tito has to up do morning juice the next day. And that's what this is all about. And by the way, and I'm not looking at the chat right now, but Tyler, you botched this. If we had Jacob Reimer on right now, we could all just shut the hell up till this game ends, because Reimer would tell us all about why USC's 9th man is the difference in this game.
Jacob Reimer's got 7 games on his screen right now running the Buckeye board, so he wouldn't have room for this chat.
I think he'd be just doing play-by-play of this game, and then ESPN would sue him.
What his kid's like 2 months old? Right?
If that even, yeah.
And he's already an absentee father.
No, that's not true. He told his wife he was taking all the night shifts so he could watch Pac-10 after dark or Pac-12 after dark or whatever.
R.I.P.
The other night, his wife comes downstairs and he's holding a stuffed animal watching basketball while the baby's upstairs crying. Reimer got confused and grabbed a stuffed animal instead of the baby, and he's out there watching college basketball. Thinks he's doing a great job as a parent, keeping that stuffed Winnie the Pooh quiet. Does Winnie the Pooh
Gonzaga was great, though. In that game.
I'm sure. Well worth it. Yes. He's the one that loves these. He loves these this time of season because there's like midnight tip-offs of some of these tournament things.
We were doing. He was on the board for the Buckeye show for Beamer and I last week, and we were talking about all the games and getting through to rivalry week in college football. And he's like, "What are you guys talking about? Next week is feast week." And I'm like, "Shut up."
Look,
all right,
the game is over. The Trojans have won.
The Big Ten is back.
Let's go streaking.
Southern California defeats Seton Hall. USC, I can't imagine if you're a Seton Hall fan, you were super pleased with the refs, even though I didn't watch a ton of this game. They just popped up a graphic. They shot like 30
What do you mean? We just watched an hour of this game.
Compared to Seton Hall shooting about 5 free throws. Oh, now we're getting to play the game. Hold on. Let's see here. Number 2 for USC.
It's got to be the botched call.
Oh, why are we showing 2 plays of the game? What the hell is that all about? But yeah,
lazy is what it is.
Big one for the Big Ten. USC playoff team. Well, probably
Big Ten getting 12 in this year, guys.
There we go.
USC was 31 for 38 from the line. Seton Hall was 12 for 18. That sounds about right.
Yeah, the fix was in.
Something was in, that's for sure. Yeah, that's crazy. So we'll get the rankings here shortly. Who will be the most annoying on that broadcast? Because Joey Galloway seems to draw a lot of ire from people for some of the ways he bangs the drum for A&M.
Well, he was doing that for the ACC a couple of weeks ago and saying that the strength of that conference wasn't any different than the Big Ten. And that's when I decided that I didn't need to watch any more of the college football playoff selection show. Little did I know what would be happening tonight. But I'd rather watch USC and Seton Hall than listen to Joey Galloway right now.
I guess we got no T-Bones in the YouTube chat.
I'm so bummed about that too. I couldn't believe Joey Galloway was beating that drum with Booger McFarland 2 or 3 weeks ago. Joey Galloway is right up there with Chris Olave and Ezekiel Elliott and Jimmy Jackson as some of my favorite Buckeyes of all time. And for him to do that, I just couldn't believe it.
It was a wild take.
He definitely was a wild take on that one, yes. But the beauty of it is that he probably knew this too. It's all going to get worked out, A&M might lose a game, Indiana might lose a game, and then if one of them wins and if one of them wins their final 2 games, one of them loses, one of their final 2 games, then he'll say, "Oh yeah, see now it worked itself out. This all worked out perfectly with that." But I'm glad that at least we will see, in all likelihood, Ohio State taking on Indiana in a game that will certainly have Heisman Trophy ramifications there. All right. Jen's
Also, Heisman Trophy ramification Saturday night.
Don't see. I knew you were going to say. I don't know why.
10:30.
Sometimes I forget who I'm working.
If you're a
That's
Heisman
right.
voter, you owe it to America to stay up until midnight. By then, game will hopefully be out of hand and they'll put the backups in. But at least from 10:30 to midnight, you got to watch the first half and watch our beloved Jeremiah Love.
You walked right into it, Tito.
Yeah, I know.
There's a guy. His handle on the YouTube is Steve Kerr that jumps in the show chats every now and then. I'm pretty sure that's Bodie's handle on the YouTube.
We can confirm that's not me because that fine young man also is a frequent visitor.
I'm sure he's probably your biggest fan. He loves you and Cole.
He really gets the people riled up. There's no question about that. He loyal listener. And maybe I should use the word listener loosely because as a carpenter one day pointed out, do you guys think he actually listens to the show? Or is he just joining the chat and put the volume on mute and just jumps in the chat?
Hey, on your show.
He did have a scorching hot take today. He said that the Notre Dame Navy rivalry means more than Ohio State Michigan. Now, I would argue that the troops trump all.
Of course,
so maybe he's not totally wrong, but if we stuck to
maybe Notre Dame and Army, we can give you that. But
yeah, going Navy Notre Dame's a step too far. Bakes, Steve Kerr, by the way, is famous for us, for Bodie specifically. Me one time, but he typically gets put in timeout by Bodie several times during the week. Have you had to do that yet with anybody in your chat?
I don't even know what that means, putting them in timeout.
Good for you, then. Yeah, you can mute people for 30 minutes, up from 30 minutes to 24 hours, however you want to do it.
I don't understand all of that, so I'll have to talk to Tyler. I'll have to talk to Tyler about that.
Sometimes Steve they're trolling. You know, we let it go to about a 7 out of 10, but once he cranks it up to a 9 or 10, you just get all right, Steve, just go sit in the corner, think about what you've done. You can come back tomorrow.
Our loyal Bishop and Friends listeners usually police that pretty well themselves. So
the problem is our listeners try to too, but Steve just does not care. He just he lives to troll. The man. You want to talk about a hill he's going to die on? All right, so we finally got some rankings here.
Whoa, here we go.
Filled in the 21 through 25.
All right, Tito, you ready? We've got Arizona at 25.
Where did they come from?
At 24, Georgia Tech has dropped to 23. Pitt is number 22. SMU is number 21.
SMU 21. Okay. What did you say Pitt was?
22.
How sad is that the team that probably has the best shot at making the ACC championship game is ranked at 21?
Yeah, right? That speaks volumes to the ACC. That just speaks volumes about where that conference is.
Virginia too. We'll see where Virginia is, but they're not going to be much higher.
They won't be. No.
Yeah,
look, the one I want to see. Go ahead.
I got some more for you, T. You ready?
Let's do it. Yep.
Number 20 is Arizona State. Number 19 are the mighty Tennessee Volunteers. Number 18, Virginia. Number 17, dropping 2 spots, USC. And number 16, Texas, as the SEC propaganda machine gets ready to kick into overdrive. So
Texas sitting there at 16. But look, I'm not sold on there's an SEC like a bias. I don't think there is. I really don't. The reason I say that, I think that I think it all gets figured out at the end anyway. Like last year, it all gets figured out. I understand. I don't feel terrible about some teams not getting in last year, and an SEC team does. Don't feel terrible. I don't remember a time last year I thought, oh, wow, I can't believe that team from the SEC got in over someone else. Looks like that the next one's coming up, right?
Number 15 are the Michigan Wolverines as they prepare to host number 1 Ohio State on Saturday in the Big House. Yep. It is a big noon kickoff.
Ooh. Shocked by that. Who's better, Michigan or Texas?
Well, according to the College Football Playoff Selection Committee, that would be Michigan.
I'm asking about the Austin Ward rankings. Who's better?
I think Texas is a more talented team.
So do I.
I think that they have come a long way since the beginning of the year. And actually, I think we'll see. I think Bryce Underwood and Arch Manning are just going different directions and ships passing in the night right now. So we'll see what happens on Saturday. But I think that, no one is going to look great against the Ohio State defense, and Arch Manning certainly did not. Number 14, though, Tito, is now the Vanderbilt Commodores.
Oh. All right, so Vandy checks in at 14. They were such a cool story for a while there, but what do you think, Bake? Michigan or Texas? Who's better?
That's so tough. It's so close. I would think I still go back to being in the shoe week 1 and seeing that Texas defense and seeing how fast that Texas defense was and how talented they were. There would be holes there for Ohio State running backs, and they would close instantly. So I would still say Texas is the more talented team. Are they the better team? That's awful interesting. That's a heck of a debate, but I do think Texas is more talented.
All right, what we got next?
Tito, number 13 will be the Utah Utes, and number 12 is the U back. Well, they're back in the top 12.
So they're back in the top 12 now. And were they 13 last week or 12 last week?
I don't know. I was just trying to make a joke.
Them and Utah just flipped. Utah was
Okay.
12, Miami was 13. Those two just flipped.
Guys, let me ask you this. There's no rule, correct, that the ACC champion has to get into this thing. It's just the top 4 conference champions, right? The
I
top
think
4 ranked conference champions.
Top 5.
Top five.
Yeah.
Right.
So if there's other conferences that somebody gets higher ranked than the ACC champion, I don't know if that could happen, but could we see a scenario where the committee puts Miami in as an at-large, but the ACC champion doesn't get in?
That's possible. It would have been more possible if Duke had somehow found their way into the ACC championship. That was the other one that was going to be the scenario where they could, if Duke got in there as like a 4 or 5 loss team, wherever the hell they were, got into the championship game and won it, that they might not be one of the top 5 ranked conference champions. But I think it's unlikely now that would happen. But I would love for that to happen at some point, Bakes.
I think it's especially unlikely now because as you look at it, you would need number 24 Tulane. They're the only group of 5 school ranked this week. They're at 24. They would have to jump all the way ahead of SMU, Pitt, and Virginia at 18, 21, and 22. So I don't think
teams, and teams that would be getting one more quality win in addition to the conference championship. I don't.
Yeah.
So I don't think, given the way the committee has structured this, that is possible. But it is fun to think about. At number 11, Tito, is BYU. Number 10, the Alabama Crimson Tide. And at number 9 in the college football playoff rankings, and number 1 in Bodie's heart, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
Notre Dame can't win a damn conference championship again this year. But Alabama, Notre Dame down there where they are. Yeah, I do think Alabama and Notre Dame are 2 of the best 12 teams in the country. I have no problem with both those teams getting in. Now, Alabama's got their game coming up this week against Auburn, and looks like Oklahoma's 8 now. So it would be an Alabama or Oklahoma Notre Dame game in all likelihood, right, in the first round there, Bode?
Yes, that'd be in Norman. Yep.
So in the top 12 so far, no switch except for number 12. Miami hopped over Utah.
Correct.
Right.
Yep. And I don't honestly, guys, I don't really think, unless Austin, I think you mentioned it earlier, Oregon's win over Southern Cal, can that bump them? Well, we just got our answer. Ole Miss falls to number 7. So I have to imagine it'll be the Oregon Ducks here at number 6, but I think that'll be the only flip-flop there in the top 10 here.
Committee was not impressed with Lane Kiffin's family flying around to Baton Rouge.
Yeah,
down
they didn't play last weekend, but
I've been
down
speaking.
They go to number 7. All right. Oregon is
6,
up to
Oregon. There we go.
Yep.
I've been speaking a lie for quite some time now, one of many. But I said that Lane Kiffin named his son Rocky when he was in Tennessee.
No, it's Knox.
It's Knox. Right. I found out today it was Knox. I've been saying Rocky for years, and it's not Rocky. It's Knox.
Close enough.
But no one's called me on it. So either no one listens to me or no one else knew.
I think you've just conveniently done that on days when you're not co-hosting the radio with me, because I would have told you all about what a huge deal that was in Knoxville, Tennessee, circa 2009.
Texas Tech checks in at 5.
I got a feeling that the rest is going to look very familiar. Number 4,
Yeah.
Georgia.
Yep.
Here we go.
I wonder if Oklahoma really takes care of business this weekend and hammers LSU, and John Mateer looks totally healthy. I wonder if somewhere along the way, when conference championships all break down and whatnot, if this committee will reward Oklahoma and say, well, they lost when Mateer wasn't totally healthy. When he's healthy, they play really well.
Well, it reminds me of the time when Cincinnati basketball lost Kenyon Martin right before the NCAA tournament started to a broken leg, and they still seeded them. They were a 2 seed still, despite the fact that their best player was gone. Mateer had a Heisman moment this year in the game against Auburn when he brought them back in that game. He was great. I loved watching Mateer play this year when he was healthy. So yeah, if Oklahoma gets a huge win, I could see that. I could see that changing for them.
I don't know how much higher they could rise, though. I mean, are they jumping an 11-1 Ole Miss? Like, I don't know. What the Lane Kiffin stuff is so weird.
Yeah.
We talked about it earlier, comparing it to the Jordan Travis stuff. I don't really know what to make of that. But after that, though, I mean, they can't jump Oregon, Texas Tech, or Georgia, could they?
But you're going to have Indiana or Ohio State lose, and you're going to have maybe possibly Texas, Georgia, depending on how all that plays out, right, in the SEC. Possibly one of those SEC teams ahead of them could lose too. It'd be a chance for them to do it and do something weird.
Yeah.
It almost feels like, yeah. I mean, I just want to put a bow on that with Bake. I don't know that they can reward Oklahoma as much as there is an opportunity still for chaos. I think that Oklahoma has reached its ceiling based on what it has accomplished to this point. As we run down and these teams that are ahead of them, I mean, there's an opportunity for Texas Tech to lose in the Big 12 championship game. Of course, Georgia's got a rivalry game, and then potentially the SEC championship game. So there could be some movement there. But again, and I'm making a big assumption, and perhaps I shouldn't, but based on a year ago, the way that they handled these conference championship games, that they weren't going to, improve or boost the resumes of teams that don't play and don't qualify into those games, and Oklahoma will not. So it feels to me like Oklahoma is gonna end the season at number 8 unless Oregon loses to Washington or Ole Miss somehow loses to Mississippi State. I think that in terms of what Oklahoma can do for itself, the window is closed on that.
So looking at potential matchups then, and I'm asking you as an Ohio State, if I'm reading this correctly, then they could play the winner of that Oklahoma game against Notre Dame. Whereas last year when Ohio State got in as at the 6/8 seed, and we looked at, said they had to play Oregon, and that was a bad matchup, tough for Oregon. If they had to play Oklahoma or Notre Dame, would anybody here? I said either, like there's only two of. Well, there's only two of us because we asked a question about Notre Dame. Bodie pretty much is eliminated from answering. But
I did real quick. I do appreciate them throwing up the playoff profiles of Notre Dame and Miami here, and they have best win for Notre Dame at number 22 Pitt. Well, if I can do some simple math, I think Southern California is literally ranked multiple spots higher. Maybe we could have gotten that cleaned up there, worldwide leader, but nevertheless, Tito, continue. I'm sorry.
I was saying, is there a team that if it's Oklahoma or Notre Dame, all things being equal, would you think that could be a trap game like Ohio State Oregon was last year? Or I don't think it would be. Do you?
I don't think there's a trap game. I don't think Oklahoma has the offense to score much on this Ohio State defense. I would think Notre Dame would have a better shot just because of their ability to run the football with those two running backs that they have. And I think CJ Carr can keep plays alive, kind of like Mateer can too. So I don't think I'd be worried about Oklahoma at all because I just don't think they'll be able to score with that offense. Notre Dame and that running game could be a little concerning.
My personal feeling on the matchups and the way that this playoff bracket could shake out for Ohio State if they're the number 1 seed, Tito, if you include everybody from 5 through 12, I think Notre Dame would be the one team that Ohio State would not want to face. I think
you guys are killing it.
we've seen this series play out several years in a row, and there does seem to be some sideline deficiencies with Marcus Freeman, who is one of my favorite guys to be around, but they have done some things in each of those last few matchups on the sideline that have obviously cost them. And they weren't done any favors by the injuries that they were suffering in the build up to the national championship a year ago. But unless this defensive improvement under Chris Ash is a mirage, and you counter that with a ball control, successful, powerful rushing attack, and an improving quarterback week over week in CJ Carr, I think you just look through this list, and that would, I think, if you were asking the Ohio State coaching staff, the team that they would not want to face in the Rose Bowl would be Notre Dame.
Bodie, do you
don't, Tito, don't do this to me. I don't need this game again. I just don't.
Hold on, real quick.
We've
given Bodie's team a lot of love here. It has been 60 years since Notre Dame's beat Ohio State. So.
Thank you, Bake.
I didn't say that they were going to lose to Notre Dame. I said that'd be the team that they didn't want to play.
I didn't either. We're giving them a lot of love. I just want to remind Bodie that 60 years.
The best news Bodie could possibly get right now is that when they play, if they do play Ohio State and Notre Dame, if the things play out this way, he'll have built up brand new PTO. So he can use more of that if he needs to take off a few days because they won or because they lost. One way or the other, I got to believe Bodie's either going to be celebrating or in a ditch somewhere.
Hey, the Rose Bowl would be fun. I don't think we've played. We did play in the air quotes Rose Bowl when we played Alabama, but we played them in Dallas in 2020 because they didn't send those two teams all the way out to California during the COVID stuff and whatnot. But I couldn't tell you the last time we played in the Rose Bowl, honestly. Obviously, all those years with the Big Ten and Pac-12 tie-ins there wasn't really an avenue for the Irish to get there, but that would be fun.
We'll make predictions on this based on the fact that we already know stuff's going to change when we do the next one. Whoever does the next one of these, I'm sure when they do it, there won't be a 95-minute second half in basketball that's dragging it on for them. Tulane at Texas Tech, winner faces Georgia. Like I said, I'm not in love with Texas Tech. I think Georgia would emerge from that into the semifinals. Does anybody disagree with that?
No.
Man, that'd be a fun matchup. Texas Tech is really good when Baron Morton's healthy. That offense is stout.
It would be Notre Dame at Oklahoma. We're facing Ohio State. I think we already established where we said what we did there. Here's the other I think is interesting too. We would find out very quickly if the Hurricanes are fraudulent because they would play at Eugene, and the winner takes on A&M at this point.
That's just so weird having Miami in there when their path to the ACC championship, and I know they're the highest ranked team right now, but their path to the ACC championship is almost ridiculous. It's almost impossible.
Right, yeah. It'd be fun to watch, I think. Out of all the ones we talked about out of the ACC, I'd most want to see Miami in the playoff just because they're polarizing. Hell, I said, 6-7 weeks ago, whatever it was, that I was hoping for Miami, Ohio State playing in the national championship game. But that obviously is not likely to happen. Do either of you, if it's Miami at Oregon, if that ends up holding serve, which it won't, and then A&M, A&M's probably likely. Oregon A&M would be a fun game to watch, right?
Definitely, yeah.
I think that would be a great game, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. How about that, though? The Mario Cristobal Bowl in that opening round.
Yeah. And then you got Alabama at Ole Miss with the winner facing Indiana. I could see both Alabama and Ole Miss beating Indiana, but I say that as someone who's biased, who wants Cignetti to be a fraud, and he keeps proving me wrong. He's a higher salaried fraud, but I could very easily see Indiana getting knocked out by whatever team would win that game between Alabama and Ole Miss.
I expect that they would get knocked out by either one. Now, who's going to be coaching Ole Miss at that time? We don't know the answer to that. There's a world where Alabama's coach could be involved in other searches going on right now, like Penn State, perhaps. So that wouldn't be helpful to your Cignetti is a fraud platform, Tito, because they might have so much uncertainty going on with those two programs that Indiana might get a little favor there.
If he lost to an interim coach, though, that would be a feather in the cap, Tito, for you. Cignetti losing, coming off a they probably won't stay the 2 seed if they lost to Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. So, but nevertheless, yeah, if they lost, still getting a bye there, past the first round into the quarterfinals, and lost to, I don't even know who Bama or Ole Miss's coaches could be in that scenario. But if they lost to an interim coach there, that'd be a nice little feather in your Signetti's a fraud cap.
And Sanzenbacher's wife, who is either from Indiana or went to Indiana, one or the other, she's threatened to fight me over my takes on Signetti in Indiana. So I could take her, I think, but I'm just saying that she's threatened it though. I'm not gonna do it.
I'm guessing it wouldn't be the first time you lost a fight to a woman. So
that's a great point. Well, yeah. How do you? We can't
you're not supposed to
violence in this chat.
Yeah, you're not supposed to win them, Tito. Don't fight it.
That's what I was gonna say. I can't defend myself. I mean, all I do is I could just, Ali, I can rope a dope, but I can't like counter.
Maybe Baker just meant verbally.
Oh, I'm not gonna lose. You think I ever lost a verbal anything with anybody? There's no way, dude. I'm verbose, if I'm using that word correctly. So right. Nothing really surprising in this, and we'll see. Obviously, after this week, it'll be a big change. But outside of Ohio State, Michigan, the Texas game will be fun to watch. That'll be a good one. The Egg Bowl, more so, just see what happens afterwards to see what kind of reception Lane Kiffin's going to get. But I don't know if we're supposed to wrap this up now. Does any of the four of you know?
This is your barbecue, Tito. You wrap it up when you want. My computer doesn't have much juice left, though.
I think we're just supposed to break down the next game out in Maui.
Yeah, well, I was going to tell you guys, I think the FCS rankings or FCS bracket just came out. If we want to spend some more time on that, if we had a commercial break, we could do that. But anyway, thank you to everybody for tuning in tonight with us and sticking with us through the USC Seton Hall game unexpectedly. And there'll be another one of these next week. I have a feeling they won't ask me back, but Ryan Baker, Bishop and Friends producer and co-host of what your co-host with Scotty
show.
Vegas.
Yeah, that
the
guy.
Fan call-in show, right? And then you produce, you do all kinds of crap, dude. You're always doing things. Austin Ward, someone else who also does a lot of stuff with his podcast with Berm, and he's getting ready to head up to Ann Arbor. And Bodie Wells, who, who based it out. Bodie Wells is honestly the only person keeping me employed because he makes sure I don't say anything that far off the reservation. Oh, I can't even say reservation, can I? Anyway, to keep me employed. He keeps me in line. So thank you all the YouTube chats.
Bodie, you just blew it.
I know I did. Thank God Fish doesn't listen to this. Does he? Thank you to Jen. Thank you to Tyler. Folks, make sure you tune in to Morning Juice tomorrow from 6 to 8 a.m. If you like it, tell your friends. If your friends don't like it, then find new friends. That's a line from an old comedian. Thanks, guys. Have a great night. Bodie, I'll see you in like an hour.